I'd like to call the December 8th, 2014 Personnel and Finance Committee to order, please. First up, item number 2, I need approval of the agenda as written. Excuse me. Support. I need to back up one step. I would like, out of respect to the district court, they have most of their personnel here that need to talk today. I'd like to move that up to item B, so they can get back to what they need to do. Yeah, right after A, we'll call them A minus, huh?
There you go.
Need a support? Any motion and support for that? Or just your blessings? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners. Then I need the approval of the agenda with that change.
Aye. Aye.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Yes, we did. Okay, public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay, apparently no public comment. Need the minutes approved from November 10th, 2014.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have motion support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, board. We'll move on now to item N, which will be A minus now, District Court, 12th District Court reorganization. Welcome, Tammy.
Thank you. Thank you for moving us up. I appreciate that. So do my judges. First off, what I want to do, I guess, is remind all of you that we were here in November at study session, presented our reorganization plan at that time, and what I want to do today is just recap a little of that, as today we're asking all of you for the approval to move on to the full board. So first off, with the full support, as you see, of our judges and I know our staff, we're here proposing this reorganization plan that will eliminate 2 positions within the district court. One is a management position, the other is a middle management. It's a casework coordinator position that is not technically deputy clerk. It's one step up from that. The savings from those 2 positions is $157,000, and what we want to do with that is combine 3 departments, our traffic, criminal, and civil, put them all in one area, which is going to increase and improve our customer service. It's going to assist us to cross-train our employees. It's going to improve the court's position for future personnel cuts if that's needed, if in the future budgets are, I guess, continuing the direction that we're seeing. It's going to put us in a better position to cut positions if need be. Right now, our staffing in our criminal department, our civil department, and our traffic department are at bare minimum. We have trouble now affording time off. We can only have a certain number of people off at the same time because otherwise we won't have anyone manning the window, manning the desks and the phones and things of that nature. So it will help all the way around the board. It will help us, and it obviously is more efficient for the county. It'll be a one-stop shop, and it's something that we've always wanted to move toward, however, never had the ability to do based on the makeup of the courthouse. If we could put everybody in one area, that is the best case scenario, but we're split up amongst floors. So this is just moving us closer to being more efficient. It's going to help us be proactive as opposed to reactive. With the cross-training, we can have one clerk that's going to take care of things on several dockets as opposed to 3 different clerks or 2 different clerks. So we're going to be more proactive. Things that we have done, I guess I feel the need to express our due diligence that the court has done throughout the years and the county's budget woes. We've been very responsive to the county. We have done everything that we believe that we could do to assist the county without any previous reorganizations. We did one previous reorganization. However, when we did that, we reduced, we merged our traffic and our collections departments. We took our collection officers that were being paid at a grade level 10, and we reduced them to a grade level 7. There wasn't any complaints about that. We reorganized, we saved money, and that's what we believed was best for the county as a whole and district court at the time. District court has continually stepped up to the call to do more. Just to briefly bring up a few things, in 2009 we increased our court costs on all misdemeanor cases by $2. In 2012, our oversight fees were, in 2012, we implemented a 20% late penalty on overdue fines and costs. In 2014, we increased probation oversight fees from 25 to 30, screening assessment fees from 75 to 100, bench warrant fees from 70 to 100, drug test fees from 14 to 25, increased the fees on all civil infractions by 25%. The district court accepted the challenge given several years ago in 2004 when in the budget process. We looked for ways to eliminate positions through attrition as well as search for revenue enhancements. We discontinued the assessment of the Justice Center Fund in 2011 and gave the county the fund balance of $892,000 to spend at their discretion. We purchased an ISP vehicle with our money when there was no capital money available to do that. We paid for e-ticketing so that we could move forward with this project because townships, local townships, couldn't meet the match. There was money that had to be come up with for the match. We matched that. Otherwise, the project would have died. It wouldn't have moved forward. We wouldn't have e-ticketing if we hadn't have done that. These are just a few of the things that we've done to be what we believe team players. We've made significant strides at showing our due diligence where the county's budget is concerned. I have to mention that I have read Mr. Overton's motion and reference our proposal. I'm a little disappointed in the motion. There were a few things that brought concern to me. And I think the first one was that the motion that was requested was to approve only the reclassification for my 3 managers, the management positions. That in no way is anything that I agree with. This is something that was approved. The management upgrades were approved back in April. My management staff said, we do not want to take an increase if the rest of our staff cannot receive the same increase. With the increase in health care costs, we have some employees that are barely making minimum wage. And they're the people that are the frontline people that are there every day waiting on the clients, waiting on the public. They're the public eye. They're the ones that are giving the impressions that are out there about the court system. And this is a package deal. It is something that we're looking for either a yes or a no. It makes sense to me, to us, to the judges, that this is a win-win. We can reorganize, and we can show our employees that we value them in a way that isn't going to cost the county any money. The money is already allocated, it's already approved in my 2015 budget. So it's not like I'm coming and asking for additional funds to do that. The money is there. I'm willing to eliminate 2 positions and reorganize. By doing that, I'm still going to save $45,000 in my personnel costs. I don't see where that would be an issue. Mr. Overton indicates that one of the issues here is collective bargaining, and the suggestion was made through his proposal that instead of possibly, it was an alternative, that a one-time incentive pay be given to these employees. Well, I'm a little confused on how a one-time incentive payment is any different than a wage reclassification. If it's during collective bargaining and the members of the union see that we gave a one-time incentive pay, how come they're not going to? Is it reasonable to expect that the union will demand a one-time incentive payment for their employees too? So either way, I think if it's a one-time incentive payment, I don't understand the argument there. Under Section C, legal and policy, it says the position reclassifications must be approved by the Board of Commissioners. 2015 budget has been adopted, which means that the district court can fill the positions authorized and budgeted by the Board of Commissioners. If this is turned down, if the board decides that this is not the way they want to go, and you tell us no, our plan is to rehire those two positions and move on status quo. We can't reorganize with two less people and make it work with adding the additional duties and having employees work outside of their job classifications. Mr. Overton says they can it says those positions do not have to be filled in 2016. Yes, they're approved in 2015. Don't have to be filled in 2016. They can be eliminated by layoff. Of course, to whom to lay off is district court's decision. I don't think that that's within the scope of authority. I think that the budget is set by you all, and if my budget is cut, it's up to district court to decide where those cuts come, whether it's in the form of a layoff or whether we can find the money somewhere else to cover the difference. It's not my intention or the judge's intention to ever lay off anyone. We will work through a situation the best that we can, and if we lose positions, that is hope that it will only be done through attrition. So that option is not something that we are looking to have happen either. I guess, lastly, I just want to make sure that it's understood the financing for this position as previously, or this proposal, as previously mentioned, the money is already allocated in the 2015 budget, with the elimination of two positions totaling $157,914 and the proposed upgrade cost of $112,804, leaving a savings of $45,111. While the reorganization proposal is relevant to the overall improvement of efficiency within the court, it is also a method by which we may show our support to our staff for their continued hard work and dedication to not only the 12th District Court, but the County of Jackson as well. Many of these employees have worked for the county for several years and not seen any change in their rate of pay based on the RISE study or wage study, which was conducted in 1997. These same employees have remained dedicated to the County of Jackson while dealing with continued downsizing and healthcare cost increases. The court respectfully requests that the Jackson County Administration and the Board of Commissioners approve the reallocation of personnel costs to support the 2015 District Court Reorganization Plan. I'm open for questions.
Commissioners, discussion. Commissioner Elwell.
Got a number of notes that I've made. Tammy, I'll say that when I looked through the packet, I got the first look at, I think, the Excel spreadsheet that listed all the employees that would be affected by it. I didn't realize it was that number of employees when we got the first look at it, although I'm sure it's accurate to what you were talking about because the money's the same. And that just comes from, I guess, my not asking enough questions, which people don't usually complain about because I usually ask too many. I do appreciate that the court's thinking outside the box to operate more efficiently. It saves the taxpayer money, and operating more efficiently makes it better for the public as well. Just as a minor point, it's not the administrator's motion that's in the packet. I think that's his recommendation you were talking about probably. He doesn't get to make motions or we'd be in trouble probably.
Oh, I'm sorry, it just said motion requested.
Yeah.
So.
I'm curious if all four of the judges are here, I'm glad, and I'm curious if all four of the judges still fully support this proposal as Tammy has presented it, if nobody minds my asking them.
That's correct. Absolutely.
Everybody does? Okay. Was there talk about, if this does go through, was there talk about the potential of redlining when a study, pay study is done next year? Has that been discussed at all or not?
It has not been discussed with me. I understand that that could possibly be a situation, or something that could happen, a possibility.
And you'd be willing to accept that if this proposal moved forward?
If when the wage study is done, if it comes out that these positions are being paid higher than they're supposed to be and they're redlined, yes, but I do not anticipate that that will happen.
Okay. Well, again, because it's the same dollar amount, I think I'm, at the very minimum, supportive of sending this to the full board to let us talk about it there. So that's my position on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Elwell. Commissioner Lodgika, please.
I guess the thing that bothers me a little bit is the wage study that's planned for 2015. I've been involved with this a couple times, once at Treasury and once here in the county. And even though you are pretty sure that nobody's going to be redlined or their evaluation's going to come back that they're overpaid, which is a bad word, it happens.
Sure.
And I guess my feeling is that I would prefer to give the employees something this year, subject to whatever the wage study shows, rather than come back and say, hey, you're being overpaid. And that's the only thing I have, the problem I might have with it, rather than, it's an excellent plan and shows cooperation and people needing to deal with what makes government more efficient, but that's my only concern. So.
And I appreciate that, and I think that it's a good concern to have, but I also understand and hear the employees on a daily basis when it comes to, I guess, one-time incentives or different bonuses that are given that hit the newspaper, and people look at that and the negative feedback and the negative things that basically are said about the county as a whole in reference to some of that. And I really am not sure I want that attached to district court. If I'm giving someone an incentive because their jobs have changed and they deserve the classification upgrades, I can stand behind that. The other one, I'm not sure.
Go ahead, Commissioner Lodgika. Another question.
No, the other hand, though, I've seen where the other side where somebody's being over, two people think they're doing the same job, and it comes back when it's studied, and they're getting the same pay, and now you got one that's well, you shouldn't be getting this level. Now this other person's mad, and because you can't take that away from them, and now I'm doing more. I mean, it's and that's going to get in the paper too. I mean,
Yep.
You're going to hit both sides. So.
Yep, I completely understand, and the only thing I can say to that is I invite you over. Come in and see, and sometimes it's difficult to see from the outside in because all you can see is what you're given. I invite you to come over.
Commissioner Rice.
Hi, Tammy.
Hello.
Forgive me if I missed this. The two positions that are going to be, that may not be filled, those are going to be incorporated and their responsibilities are going to be taken care of by...
The first one is a management position, the Chief Enforcement Officer.
Okay.
And what we will do when we consolidate, if this goes through, is I will have one department that will house probation, or excuse me, criminal, traffic, and civil deputy clerks. That will be one manager for that, okay? Then I will have the collections department, the court officers, and court security which will be handled by one person. So instead of having 3, I'll have 2, and those duties will be split up amongst those 2. So the position that I'm eliminating, that's the Chief Enforcement Officer. The other position is a casework coordinator within the Traffic Division. As of right now, we have 4 positions that are casework coordinator positions that are paid one step above our deputy clerks. And the reason for that is we originally had 4 separate divisions, and we had a pseudo middle management called casework coordinator person in the division that handled the day-to-day case flow management things. When we consolidated traffic and collections, we ended up with 2 casework coordinators in 1 position. So at this point, we could eliminate 1 because we don't need that with only 3 divisions. We don't need 4. Now, that wouldn't mean that we would totally eliminate the position. It would just be the casework coordinator position and then rehire for a deputy clerk at the lower pay grade. That
Okay,
make
thank
sense,
you.
or did I confuse you even
No,
more?
no, not at all. Actually, I appreciate that. It just goes to showing me that the idea of reorganization, that there's been obviously a lot of thought into this, and there's also been a lot of thought into how to incorporate those 2 positions into so other people can fulfill those responsibilities. So that's obviously, that's quite important. And at least from my perspective, whatever happens in 2015, if something has to be adjusted, so be it. As I've looked through this twice now, from my perspective, I'm going to have to support moving this onto the full board. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Tammy, I'd like to thank you for bringing this plan forward. I like it. It's well thought out. I draw from my experience in private business, and if I have an employee that can find a way for me to do something within my business at a less expense, I really appreciate that. And government can't always work that way, or at least doesn't always work that way. I appreciate you advocating for your staff. I like the plan. It does present a couple challenges as far as what Administrator Overton has suggested, but I like it, and I too would, due to the gravity of the situation, the importance, it's kind of something some of Mike's concerns are correct, and but I do want to continue the discussion. If it can't be settled here, I'd like to actually have all the commissioners have input on it, rather than just here. So I'm going to entertain motion from the committee and see what they'd like to do. But I appreciate you and your people putting together this plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phil, I'd like to make a motion to move it on, but I also want to state that I agree that Mike Overton has raised some legitimate issues. I don't think they cannot be overcome. I think they can be overcome. And the reality is that it's a reorg with people doing different duties, operating more efficiently, and spending less money. So from my perspective, I don't have a hard time rationalizing that. But again, I do support sending it on, letting the full board discuss it. So that's my motion.
Support.
I thank you very much.
Okay, with that, we will go back to the original agenda. We'll be on item B, the drop in retirement list. It's larger than normal. Let me get navigating back here. I'll probably got to go way to the top.
I have it put some back in order because
Oh.
I changed the agenda.
Okay. Any questions or comment on the drop list? Okay, we'll move on to item C, the Treasurer's Quarterly Report. For your reading pleasure, I guess. We don't have anybody here. We'll move on to any questions on the treasurer report. Okay, we'll move on to item D, refunding the Lifeways bond. This needs to be voted on and sent to the full board. Any questions, discussion? Commissioner Lutchka.
Support.
Have a motion and support to send the Lifeways refunding bond on to the full board for action. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. Passes unanimously. We will go on next to the HR department. Welcome, Joni.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The first item up would be amendment number 1 to our group health plan. Under the Affordable Care Act, particularly the pay-or-play provisions, we're required to make changes to the current group health plan. You have in your packet the quite lengthy amendment, but it specifically targets revising definitions throughout the document to reflect changes that are required by the mandate. And if you've read it, you'll see that a lot of those are acronyms that I'm still getting my head around. I mean, it's a lot of page flipping. It adds numerous new sections to address specific terms that are used in reference to pay or play. References the eligibility requirements that have to be updated, including eligibility for employees if they're returning to service after a period of absence of less than 13 weeks. It updates the eligibility for dependents. As you probably know, we are now required to cover dependents up to the age of 26. And then there is a clarification to some language that's in the current group health plan document that ended up being not intentional, but being a little confusing as far as how it applies to the Department of Transportation non-union retirees. So that's for clarification purposes.
First, Joni, I'll say don't feel bad about not getting your head wrapped around it. Congress still isn't the public, so.
Yeah, I know.
I'd move to forward the full amendment to the full board.
Support.
Yes, the next amendment is to the Section 125 cafeteria plan, and again, this amendment is required to be in compliance with the Affordable Care Act. This particular amendment will address eligibility for medical expense reimbursement accounts. To be eligible to deposit money, you have to now be eligible to participate in the group health plan. It again has updates to definitions in regards to dependent and revises language regarding the maximum amount of medical expense reimbursement. The government had changed that to $2,500. For 2015, very late, they changed it to $2,550, so we have opted not to go with that particular change for 2015 because we were in the middle of open enrollment when they announced that. But going forward in 2016, we want the language to reflect that our maximum contribution would be whatever would be deemed by the IRS. So
I'd move this to the full board.
Support.
Motion and support to send amendment number 3 to the full board. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. Passes unanimous. One more human resources item, item G. The stop loss.
yeah, the stop loss we had discussed at study session, but if there's any additional questions, I would be happy to answer.
Joni, just to be clear, it's actually just moving who the carrier is for it. It's not changing any coverage for any retirees or anybody else, correct?
Right, again, this strictly just affects the county. It does not affect employees who have health insurance.
Okay. I'd so move.
Support.
Support. Any further discussion? No. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moves us on to item I, facilities. Would you like to speak to this, Rick, or? Pardon me? Thought we were at H. Hang on. Oh, okay. Item H, medical examiner position upgrade. Welcome.
Hello, I am Jill Glare from the Medical Examiner's Office. I'm here in Dr. Mano's place to answer any questions you may have in regards to the request for an upgrade to the administrative assistant position. I think at this point in time, I'd just like to reiterate that the position is currently operating under a job description that is no longer valid. There's been some major changes that have taken place in other departments that have affected the operations of our department, resulting in an elevated level of responsibility and duties. I also would like to state that at this time that in Dr. Mano's request, he also stated that he does feel that the job is still undervalued at this level, but hopefully when they do the job study, that will be looked at.
Questions, Board? Commissioner Elwell?
Well, I'm supportive of this. I know the hard work the ME's office does. I'm curious if Mike is supportive of this request.
Yeah, we reviewed this, sat down,
So
Need
move
a
it.
motion? Support? Motion and support? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we move on to facilities. Now I see Rick, why he had such a perplexed look on his face. Sorry about that, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. As discussed at the study session, we'd like to move forward the final restoration phase of the Riverwalk Hotel demolition.
Commissioner Lutchka.
I don't think he has anything to say.
Oh, I thought I seen his hand moving.
The final, you said?
Yes.
The final. The final, right? I so move. The final, okay?
It is.
But, motion and support, okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now we move on to item J, Information Technology Department. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Yes. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to stand before you this afternoon and update you on the activities of our department in the past 6 months. Let's see here. I've broken out this report into several categories. The first category is projects, and we've enumerated some of the bigger projects that have impact countywide. With that, we've started and are still working on the financial accounting system. We've had a great deal of work that's gone into the planning and implementation of this. Implementation will continue on for a short period of time beyond this month. We've also worked on deployment of the multifunction printers. This has been an effort that has impacted all of the county departments. There's been a great deal of time that's been put into this because we want to ensure that all of the fax phone books and so forth that the departments had were successfully transitioned over. Moving on to more specific areas, going into the sheriff and the courts. As we all know, the 911 call center recently relocated. We were actively involved in helping support this relocation from a technology perspective. We helped them upgrade some of the technological infrastructure, and we were there supporting them as they went live. We've also provided support for the imaging system implementations in the prosecuting attorney's office and in the clerk's office. And just recently, the clerk signed off on a project completion on this effort. We've also supported an initiative by the courts for video teleconferencing to link the youth center and the courts and various incarceration facilities to optimize the judicial process. Moving on to parks, we've assisted the Parks Department in implementing a golf course management system. This allowed them to transition from an older system that wasn't quite as web-friendly and as user-friendly as the new site. We've also been providing web authoring training for the parks staff so that they can update information on the website as quickly as needed. And more recently, not shown here, we've been working with the parks to look at establishing connectivity for various remote sites and locations, including campgrounds, to enable them to tie into the financial accounting system. Going on to the health department, we've assisted them with the communicable disease reporting system, which is a web-based reporting system. We've implemented a animal shelter management system, and we've assisted the health department in their disaster preparations. With the fair, we've been able to expand wireless support for vendors and help them provide access to the vendors to improve their operations. Moving on to infrastructure, we've had a number of areas that have been of concern to us in this. One area is our fiber optic network. We've been working on that in terms of analyzing the network topology because of the need to ensure that we have redundancy and fail-safe capabilities. And in order to complete that, we're also actively exploring other avenues for completing our network topology. Another initiative that I've brought in is to provide enterprise-level tools to the Information Technology Department staff. This enables them to be more productive and enables us to be more cost-effective in our delivery of service. We have a number of things here. I'm going to focus on the Network Performance and Analysis tool. This is a new tool that will enable the network administrators to monitor activity on the network and identify problems early on before they become severe enough to degrade or completely stop network performance. We also upgraded to an enterprise-level antivirus system, which allows for faster deployment, better monitoring, and we're able to do this at a significant cost savings. This new product is a industry-recognized product, and I was able to negotiate a price with a vendor that was 1/3 the price of what we were paying for the previous antivirus. We're also exploring new help desk software. The intent here is to provide additional capabilities, also to provide the ability to provide help desk software to other departments. As you may be aware, we currently support the Facilities Department's help desk, and we are also in the process of evaluating making this type of service available to other departments. We have a tool that's currently in evaluation that would provide a county-wide license, so if we add other departments, it would be at no charge to the county. And we anticipate significant productivity and cost savings from that. And I guess at the bottom, I'll mention a little bit about the cost allocation model. We're working on refining that cost allocation model because it helps us identify the costs of providing service to the county. Moving on to staff and education training, I believe that one of the most important investments that we can make as a department is additional staff training. So to that end, we have made arrangements to provide Dell certification training to Information Technology Department staff. In a previous employment, with the Dell certifications, we were able to negotiate a lower price from the vendor for support. So we'll be looking at doing that when we complete our certification as well. Something else that I have brought in as an initiative is the implementation of project management tools and techniques. This ensures that we have proper scope definition, proper timelines, milestones, and that we're able to do things on budget and on cost. Additional training will include things such as CompTIA, which is another industry standard, training in Microsoft Server and SQL Server. The last item, VMware, is our virtualization environment. This environment provides the ability to use our data center resources much more efficiently and provide for faster recovery in the event of a server failure. In the past, prior to virtualization, it might take as long as a week to recover a server that has failed. With this new technology, we can do that in 15 minutes or less. We've also upgraded the server for the GIS folks, and we have an additional system which you recently approved that will enable us to maintain more backups. Some changes in the processes that are underway. I have implemented the process of a NIMS-compliant after-action report. This is based on the National Incident Management System, and this is a process that allows us to analyze departmental responses to significant events and determine points of failure and points of improvement and changes in the way the department will operate will be developed based on that. We've also been working on setting up more procedures in-house. I already mentioned project management. Something else that's new is the very last bulleted item. We, of course, support the Criminal Justice Information Service and the security standards that are mandated within that. We are also bringing in something called ISO 27000, which is an international standard for cybersecurity to ensure the safety and integrity of our data. Moving on to workload, this is an updated version of the charts that you saw during my last presentation. I'll focus on just a few items there. The working hours to close a ticket is on a downward trend. Trouble tickets per month is staying about trend. If you look at the pie chart, we see certain items in the pie chart that I will be focusing on in terms of improving efficiency within the department. There are some issues, for example, like login related issues that we have some technology that we'll be bringing in that will help optimize that. We're also working on website related issues, both through providing departments with training on authoring and looking forward towards incorporation of new technologies and a new look in the department. Now, one thing that is not shown in this workload is the workload that is attributable to implementation projects, because those normally don't go through our trouble ticket system. So the actual workload as going through the department is lowballed by the trouble tickets per month and the working hours to close ticket, because those project-related items are tracked by the project. One last item is I'm pleased to report that the website received an award from the Center for Digital Government. This is an award in which Jackson County's website was ranked number 8 in our county category. And to a major extent, this is more of a tribute to the board and the administrators for the philosophy that they have followed. The criteria shown here basically deal with citizen engagement, transparency, use of technology, report cards, and being able to deliver enterprise level approaches. I think the big item is alignment of the IT department with the board's goals. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
I congratulate you on your award.
Oh, thank you.
Questions? Comments? Commissioner Rice?
I have a comment, actually. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Don last week, and we talked. I actually, believe it or not, I did the listening for quite a long time, and it's obvious that he has from my perspective, he has a vision that number one is saving money, but and he's already proven that, and I just appreciate a lot of what he's doing. Probably could have been done in the past, but it wasn't, but it is being done now, and I really appreciate that. I do have a concern, though, that a lot of our IT employees are working overtime. They receive comp time for that, and they're working 5, 10, maybe 15 hours a week overtime, and, I guess my concern is if they have to take comp time, but they're working overtime, how are they ever going to be able to use the comp time? So, just a concern there. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your kind comments, and with regard to your concern, I do concur that we could use additional staff within the IT department, and behind the scenes I've been having discussions with the administrators about that. We are, of course, budget aware and budget conscious, so we're looking at ways to provide additional staff while still honoring the budget constraints that we're facing.
Further questions or discussion? Don, thank you for your report. Stay right there. We've got item K here, upgrade of a casual employee position to full-time. Would you like to discuss that?
Yes, thank you. With me is Christopher Bolt, Managing Director of the Jackson County Department of Transportation. We've been working together on this concept, and basically this involves upgrading a casual position that we have within JCDOT to a full-time position. Because of the march forward of technology, we have additional technology that's been brought into JCDOT. With Mr. Bolt's coming on board, he has additional visions, and jointly we've been working together to develop a vision that would involve additional technological implementation within the department. So to that end, we've both concurred that we would like to obtain your permission to upgrade this position from casual, which by its very nature is limited in the number of hours per week, to full-time. And the paperwork that I've submitted shows the costs. I guess at this point, I'm open for any questions you may have.
Discussion, Commissioner Elwell.
Don, just one. In the letter of explanation, it talks about going from 20,000 to 59. Is that on top of, or is the 59 part of the 20, or vice versa?
The paperwork, actually, the net effect would be going from 20,000 to 59.
It'll be 39. Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Okay, I need a motion in support. We have motion in support. Please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item L, the monthly finance report. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the 10 months ended in October, our budget benchmark is 83.3%. Our actual expenditures in the general fund are at 82.3%. However, as I always point out, we have quarterly transfers that are going to be recorded in November. If we look at the results to date, I'd like to point out, skipping ahead to the revenue section, the 2014 budget as amended said that we would use fund balance of $413,729. And if I'm looking at projections, and again, this is just a projection, don't hold me on the exact numbers, I believe that for the year we will potentially use $450,000 to $500,000 of the fund balance. So it's just a little bit more pessimistic than we anticipated, but however, still on target for the year. The graphs are pretty much on target with respect to the expense side as well as the revenue, a slight increase in the revenue collections to date, and so forth. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions for Jim? Discussion? Thank you, sir. We have one more item right while you're there. Let me navigate over to this. We have a couple of 2014 budget amendments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're proposing budget amendments that increase general fund revenue by $664,000. The majority of that, $522,000, is an increase in liquor tax revenue. It's been a good year in that respect. However, half of the liquor tax has to be sent to our substance abuse provider for this region. I think it's called CMH of Central Michigan. So the budget amendment will reflect the additional revenue there, but also has to reflect the expenditure side, because half of it, we get to keep half, but the other half we have to send on. In addition to that, there is an increase in the transfer to the Parks Fund of $287,000, and to other general fund departments, $92,000 net increase. With respect to the Parks transfer, I'd like to make a couple comments. The general fund transfer for 2014 was lower than the previous year. In fact, it was on average $198,000 less than the years before. And I believe one of the reasons for this was we felt that the Parks Fund was going to work down reserves in 2014. However, those reserves were consumed in a prior year. So if we look at the increase, the proposing of $287,000 plus, it's really an additional $90,000 above the average general fund contribution over the previous 5 to 6 years. I just wanted to point those items out to put that in perspective. The other item with respect to the golf course in particular is that golf course revenue was less than it's been in the past few years. However, the budget was still at a higher level. I think it was budgeted based on the optimistic years, which goes back really to 2010. With respect to golf course revenue, I'm told that there's a lot of uncertainties with respect to the weather. If you have good weather, you have a longer season, therefore you have additional greens fees and so forth. With respect to, then the final budget adjustment is with respect to the youth center, where there was additional funds available under what's it called, 1B of $15,000. And basically this is paying for additional hours with respect to an individual at the youth center. So be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Go ahead, David.
Just really a comment that the greens fee seems like the biggest drop, what, 32% over what was budgeted.
Yes, it is.
Kind of surprising, but I guess we can't control the weather, so.
Any further discussion or questions?
Dave, to that comment, the airport revenue for landing fees and takeoffs and fuel consumption pretty much mirrors the golf course. If we have a down year at the golf course, we have a corresponding down year at the airport. So the weather does play into both of those hobbies, if you would.
I'd move the budget adjustments.
Motion support to amend the budget is presented. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Okay, we've done item N. We'll move on to item O. We have a request to approve resolution number 12-14-42. This is a market adjustment to reflect a 1% pay increase for non-union employees. Discussion. It also has a bi-weekly accrual of the PTO time. I was going to handle them separately if we wanted to, but this accrues rather than waiting for the one-year anniversary. Plus, we have some changes to the individual disability plan. Commissioner Lutchka.
Quack, quack, quack. I'll move both these resolutions forward to the full board.
Support.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. Thank you. We'll move on to item P. Administrator Controller wishes to issue a contract for bond counsel services. You like to talk about that at all, Mike, or just?
Not really, but.
We have a motion and support to go ahead and do this. The bond counsel services, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. Thank you. Move on to item 5. A, we have the claims for November. We need to pay the claims, pay our bills. Motion and support to pay the claims. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. The other minutes are there for your review. The January schedule is there for your review. We will return to public comment. Any public comment? None. Commissioner member comment. Commissioner Lutchka.
I think this is my last committee meeting. It's been fun.
I would like to thank you for being on this committee and all your input, and we're going to miss you. Thank you, David. No other comment? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.